copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Almost 3 o'clock.
Yeah, that clock's ahead.
There we go. All right, so it's 3 o'clock. I will open this first of 2 candidate information sessions for 2024. My name is Karen McAdam, and I am the chair of the Elections Committee, which is one of 12 standing committees that the board has. And I co-chair that together with Connie. And it's part of the responsibility of the Elections Committee to recruit and help candidates along in the process for the new electoral cycle that's about to begin. So I'd like to just extend a very, very warm welcome to you as people that are potentially interested in serving on the board. This is designed to be a casual meeting, very, very informal, where we will give you some idea of the way we perceive this job, and we will give you a chance to answer any questions that you might have about what this job might look like were you to become a member of the RCSC board. So I just want to give you a brief rundown of what's going to happen. We're going to introduce ourselves in a minute. We're going to ask you to introduce yourselves. I have a few statements to make about sort of general responsibilities. Then we'll move into process questions about how does this actually go down, what would be next steps in that, and we will open it up for questions, any questions that you might have. You're free to raise your hand at any point and ask a question if you need clarification about something or other that comes up. So I hope you're okay with that. So let me just say, becoming a candidate or thinking about that is this first phase of I'm thinking about it. I'm considering this possibility. If you choose to move forward, the next thing would be becoming verified as being eligible to serve. And after that, you actually have to become an official candidate. We'll have more information about that. There's a candidate packet that looks like this that we'll be talking about a little bit more. The actual election date is set by our bylaws for the second Tuesday in December, which this year is December 9th. And the installation of new board members, which is a required event in person, is scheduled for December 19th, which is the December board meeting. It's pulled forward a little bit in the year because of the holidays. So that kind of is the scope, time-wise, of this whole process. And we hope that we can give you some more clarity about that as the meeting moves on. But let's just begin. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to say who you are, tell us a little bit about your time of service on the board, and maybe the areas of emphases that you've had since being on the board. We have some members who are very, very new. You will realize quite quickly, and a couple that have been on the board for a little bit longer. So let me just start down here with Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Nettisheim. I've been on the board for a total of about 2.5 months, 3 months. I'm losing track of time. Yeah, it would be 2 months. So my time on the board has been very interesting. We've had a lot of interesting things come up. We've navigated the library leases. We have had the opportunity to look at a new property that may or may not be beneficial for us. I have had the opportunity to work closely with the other board members, and it has been It's been fun. I have to say it's been fun. I've enjoyed it to date. I've also had the privilege to talk to lots of members, and I think that's really important as well, having an understanding of where people are coming from and what they're wanting to do. My area of expertise is technology, and that's where my focus has been. We've been looking at things like the website RFP. We've been looking at how we move from rebuilding and upgrading and updating our infrastructure and operations, and what's the next step to do the integration between the software pieces. I've also been a pivotal part of the conversations with the library lease and the library lease negotiations, which has opened my eyes to things that perhaps as just a member my eyes were blind to, which I think is really important. So that's pretty much me. I have lived here in Sun City 5 years. We've owned a house here for 11. So.
Director Ruff.
Hi, I'm Jim Ruff. I had the privilege of being appointed last year in March and served 9 months last year and ran for election in the fall and got elected for a 3-year term. I've spent a lot of time on bylaws and policy updates. Was delighted to have Chris join us. She was on the technology committee, which I was the chair of, and brings a wealth of knowledge for that technology side of what we're doing. There's been so many things going on, as you all know. New general manager, board members resigning, people getting appointed. What I'm looking forward to is 2 years from now, this will be a much easier job than it's been last year and this year, just because we're going through so much change, trying to figure out what's the best way to do all the things that we do. And if you'd bring an open mind and willingness to work, you'd be more than welcome as a board member. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anita Borski. I came to Sun City as a snowbird in 2008 and moved here permanently in 2019. I've been on the board for 6 months. I was elected last year for a 1-year term. I'm the board treasurer, and I'm on the foundation committee. I was on the finance committee, outreach and communication, and a COC, Committee on Clubs. I'm also the liaison for the museum and Sun City Can. This board is like a family. We all get along well, and we discuss things, and everything's great with us. As you come on the board, you're going to be facing Mountain View, which will be a big thing next year. As well as we're looking at the Thunderbird property this year, all the things that Tom and Chris mentioned. There's been a lot going on. I have learned a lot. I can turn anything into a job, so I'm surprised at how much time I've been spending reading and doing research, and I read all the committee meetings minutes just so I know what's happening. I like what I do. I think it's a fun thing, and I'm happy to contribute to my community.
Well, my name is Tom Foster. I'm not sure how you follow that, but I also was appointed in March, as Chris was. Same general situation of a previous board member resigning, and I stepped in to take that particular seat, and now that will expire at the end of this year. So if I'm going to stay, I need to be on that side of the room and be running for election as well. Currently, I serve on the Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee. Well, I'm co-chair of that committee. I used to be on the committee. Now I got demoted to co-chair. And then long-range planning, insurance. I also work with the investment group for the foundation. All of those have been tremendous experiences. I've spent a career in institutional investment and treasury and selling stocks and bonds for the organizations that I worked for. So this has been, at least in this area, just hit the ground running. But a lot of other things take place too. So it's been a learning experience as well. But I would echo the comment that this particular group, I came into this thinking, oh, there's going to be some hard times. There's going to be some hard feelings. There's going to be politics. There's going to be compromise, et cetera. And there is, but this group has got along amazingly well. I'm kind of surprised, but thankful as well. And hopefully any of you who might join the board, the same would be for you.
Okay, as I said, my name is Karen McAdam, and I am finishing out my second elected term this year. So on December 31st, I will be hanging up my apron here and gaining a desk back at home. So I have had a variety of different responsibilities here. I've served on the lawn bowling committee. And by the way, we have, I think, 12 board standing committees. We also have 7 different liaison groups. So these are groups that are not RCSC that are serve basically the same population. And we, in order to try to capitalize on the fact that we can cooperate well with one another, do a designate liaison. So I was the liaison for the Sun City Community Assistance Network and for SHOA. It's important to be clear about the fact that SHOA handles a different set of responsibilities than RCSC does. If you have questions about that afterwards, please feel free to ask. I currently chair the Budget and Finance Committee committee and the Elections Committee, and have also served. We have a management board for the Viewpoint Lake behind us here. So my parents lived in Sun City starting in 1995. We moved here in 2013. That's about all I have to say, I think.
Okay. My name is Connie Rickmeyer. I was elected for this year. I have a 3-year term. I am currently the co-chair of the Outreach and Communication Committee, the chair of the Properties Committee, the co-chair of the Elections Committee, the chair of Lawn Bowling, the co-chair of Bowling, and I'm also on the Bid Commission. Just a couple of things. Oh, and for fun, I help out our Building and Infrastructure Department with regards to HVAC and plumbing issues. Well-rounded. I chose to run for the board because I felt my background would be helpful with the Mountain View project, with the backlog of deferred maintenance that we have. And so far, I think it has helped a lot. I think if nothing else, as my other board members will say, I tend to go into the weeds a little bit and give them too much information regarding the different things that we're facing in some of the buildings. This is an amazing group of people. Everybody is focused on what is best for RCSC, the properties, our members, and I don't think people realize that. And hopefully, if you are able to be part of this, you will feel that as well. And we will continue with the great work that has been occurring. And hopefully by the end of, if I manage to make it 6 years, we will have accomplished a lot. We've accomplished a lot already, but we've got big goals. On to you, Kat.
Thank you. I'm Kat Fimmel. I am the current president of the RCSC Board of Directors. I came to Sun City 12 years ago, and shortly after coming here, I began volunteering on committees. And 2.5 years ago, I helped to found the Technology Committee, because prior to that time, we didn't have a Technology Committee, which is extremely important. We are here to serve the corporation, the community, and the members. And the reason why I think we do so well is that we don't allow ourselves to be focused except to do what is best for the corporation, what is best for the community, and what is best for the members. This may be the hardest job you will ever love, and you get to do it as a volunteer. And we cannot say enough about our volunteers. We have volunteers on our committees. This board is a volunteer board. You are here hopefully because you care about your community and you care about your neighbors. The thing that is most important to me as I conclude my first term is that over the past 2 years, basically, we have taken a board that was not being operated in a manner that was member-operated and self-governed, which is what this corporation is supposed to be, self-governing. And we need to make sure as we move forward into next year and the year after and the year after, that we never forget to care and protect for our self-governance. The people here today are the ones that are helping to perpetuate self-governance in our community, and if you get to be on the board, we will expect you to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, so that's this side of the room. We want to give you all a chance to just briefly tell us who you are. Save your questions for right now, but give us an idea of who you are and what might be motivating you to be here today. Mike, let's start with you.
My wife told me not to run, and I told her I wasn't going to run. And so I'm just sitting at a table for more comfort, but I am on several committees. I have been involved in the community in many ways, and I choose right now probably to stay that way, but I like to be informed. And so I was at these last maybe a year or 2 years ago, and I was thinking about running, and I didn't. But I like to just be well informed about all the things going on. So I attend a lot of committees as well as those that I'm members of.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah. John?
Oh, hi. My name is John Brissett. I got here in 2014. Were you looking for a background, a history, or just why do I want to do this?
Whatever you'd like to tell us.
Okay, I went to a military college. I did my military career and retired. After that, I worked for the California Department of Food and Agriculture for 14 years as a manager of the licensing divisions, which was food, fruit, nuts, all that. I was the state's arbitrator, and I was a mediator for the state. One day, my secretary walked in my office and asked me if I'd like to hire a certain person. I said, they're really not qualified. She told me they were, and here I am. Okay. I like Mike said, the biggest thing, when I first got here, I didn't do much but play golf and have fun. And then I got interested in going to some of the meetings. And so I started off with golf because I like golf. So I went to the golf committee just to watch, and I got the chance to be on the board. Is it a board? I guess it's a board. I enjoyed that a lot because I learned a lot that I didn't know because all my golf partners told me something else. And they all know more than any of you at the board. I'm sorry. Okay, they really do. And they're very confused. And so I've kind of taken it upon myself, and I can get it verified if you'd like, that I like telling people when I go to these meetings what is said at the meeting, okay? Not what is in the paper, because that doesn't match. As I noted, we've had people at the Golf Advisory Committee make comments, and the name comes out in the paper, and that's not even what they said. And that's not even the person that said it. Right, Mr. Foster? So I like to know, so then I go around and tell people what is going on. I do have a lot of friends in the neighborhood. And like I say, it's just a matter for me to learn what's going on. I don't have all the knowledge. I went to the long-range planning committee today, and like that was kind of, it's the second time I've been to it, and it's really kind of amazing how far out you folks are thinking in order to keep this what it is, and as if I may say, Kate greatly stated, for the members, you know, and self-governance. And so it kind of, to me, what I have seen so far, I'm going to these, I've been to the budget meeting, and all, what I have seen happening at these meetings does not go along well with what is being told and thought in the communities. And my thought is maybe there needs to be a little more outreach to the community. I'm not sure how, okay? I don't have the answer, I've got the question, okay? But a better means of informing them, and if somebody's going to write something on the paper from a meeting that's happened, that should be reviewed by the board or somebody, you know, so that it's the facts. Because misinformation goes a long way, and I don't like it a whole lot. So anyways, like I say, I'm here. My wife was here, and she gave me permission to be here. I got to be home by 4 because that's my kitchen pass ends. But no, as I would really like to, I've seen, and I think I can say this freely, Mr. Foster getting in, and how eager he's become, and how he's gotten into the board, and he's really impressed me that if you can get some people in there that really, like yourselves, want to do it and do as best they can, that's kind of where I'd like to be. So no, I just don't know if no. I would take it if offered, if I can get through all the stuff, all the prerequisites, and get enough signatures. And it just seems like a good board that needs people that want to be there. That's about it.
Thank you.
I see you graduated from the kids' table to the big table now.
I don't know.
Are you not sure yet?
myself.
That's what happens at the big table.
Oh, okay.
The kids' table where we have all the fun.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm Darla Akins, and I'm lived here in Sun City for almost 20 years. Next year, it'll be 20 years. I moved out here a couple years before I was 55 because my roommate was 55, so I was allowed to move out at 52, and worked about 10 years before I retired. And I've been retired now almost 10 years, about 8 years, I guess. So anyway, time flies when you're having fun. And I was on the board for 4 years. I was appointed the first year, and then I was elected for 3 years. And then the next time I ran, I was not elected, but you know, that's the way things happen sometimes, and you just go with it, go with the flow. However, I am a member of the Elks over there in Union Hills, and the exalted ruler over there was extremely happy that I was not elected to this board because he wanted to appoint me to the House Committee over at the Elks. So last year I served on the House Committee at the Elks last year because he was extremely thrilled that I was able to do that. And that was a big learning experience because you guys think there's a lot going on here. That we have about 3,500 members, I think, over there. And we have about as much going on over there as you guys have going on here with 40,000 residents. So it's like, that has been a lot of political stuff going on over there. But, you know, whenever you get a group together, a group of adults together, that's what happens. I like being on the board. I like you said, I like being informed. I like hearing stuff firsthand. I don't want to hear it secondhand because, you know, you remember that telephone game we used to play when we were kids? Once that one little statement gets all the way around the circle, it's changed about 5 times, 7 times, because everybody's going to put their little interpretation in it, their little tweak in it, and it's not the same as it started out. But I think we got some things started when I was on the board. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish some things, but I think we got some things started, and I think we got the community back. I'm not saying back together because I don't think we were ever really not together here in Sun City. I think Sun City is a wonderful place to live. I think what we need to try to focus on is keeping it an affordable place. Because of, I have the paper at home, I have it with me, but I ran down the income levels here in Sun City, and we do have a lot of people that are under the poverty level here in Sun City, and they're here because they can afford it. And they're here to try to enjoy their retirement at an affordable rate. And I wanted to try to help keep it that way. And I think if we look at the whole picture and look at all the things that's going on, we can do that. We can keep things affordable for these people because we have a lot of elderly people. I say elderly. We're all elderly, I know. But in their 80s or 90s that maybe have lost a spouse or have almost outlived their retirement income and are still living, so they're still trying to maintain some substance to their life. And I think that's what we need to focus on. I was also on our Homeowners Association board for 4 years. I was a secretary. And people really want me to go back on that board because what I did was I tried to keep everybody informed. What I did was I made up a flyer every month and I put on exactly what was going on. If nothing was going on, I just made it like some jokes or something that you could do. And just passed out the papers for everybody. And during the holiday months, I made a little, I love making flyers up because I'm a retired school teacher and became a teacher when we were just getting into computers. So I love doing charts and computers. I used to do that for my kids. I did PE, so I like doing that for my kids. And I like making little pictures on the flyers. And I was also the president of not the president, I was head of the PE teachers for the last 5 or 6 years while I was teaching. So I ran all the meetings over there for our district for the physical education teachers. I like to talk to people, and I like to listen, because that's when you learn a lot, when you listen. I grew up in a very big family. I was not my immediate family, but my cousins, because my grandmother had 6 kids, so I had a lot of cousins. And I always hung out with them, and I like to listen because you'd be surprised what you can learn when you listen to what somebody has to say. Not only that, but you have your mind, you think what you know, what you want to say, or what you think should happen, and then you listen to somebody else, and then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. And then it can always regroup your thoughts, and you can maybe start thinking in a different direction, and hopefully maybe make something else work that you didn't think would. So hopefully we'll see where it goes. Thank you. And you say I like to talk.
Well, and I think you've actually lived here longer than I have, because I was listening, and I moved here in 2006. And
What's your name?
oh, sorry, Rick Gray. Thank you. I just got so distracted with what she was saying. Because also the thing about elderly, my definition of elderly keeps moving up. So it's always a decade older than me. But yeah, we moved here in 06. Moved down here, ended up buying the house at the end of 06. I started a small plumbing company. I tried buying one, couldn't find one, so I ended up starting one. Wanted to keep it small, so I had a little free time besides remodeling our house. And they had a need for board directors on Showa. And so there was kind of a hubbub back then, and it's like, okay, they didn't have enough people. And so I thought, well, I'm here to serve, so I put my name in and ended up being elected. And that was one of the things that I started to realize being down here is the more you get involved, the richer your life is, because you begin to work with people and you get to know people. And I look at people as, it's like presents. The more you get to know them, you start opening them up. And then I went from that and saw how important our legislators were and our county supervisor, and then we ended up having an open seat in the legislature. And I had gotten involved in politics, so I thought, hey, we need protection here in Sun City, so I ran and was elected. And so I spent over a decade in the House and the Senate. I retired at the end of 22 and was so glad to get out of it. And I actually had somebody ask me, are you going to run for the show or the rec center board? And it's like, no, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm through with all that stuff. And now my wife, for full disclosure, is the general manager of Showa, so I can't run for their board. And she's doing a better job there than I would as a board member. But to be honest with you, the whole thing with, and I was happy just to be retired, but the whole thing with the library kind of shocked me and surprised me. And so I started rethinking more about running for the board. And, at first it was like, well, I'll think about it, but then I just said, I'm going to do it. And I think that as, again, being here again today, it's one of those things where it reminds me again of the value of working together for the good of the community. And one of the things I've said, in fact, when Showa was looking for new board members, I put an article in the paper encouraging people to run for the board. And one of the things I think I said in that article was, maybe I didn't, but one of the things I've seen, and just for clarification, I was on the board of Showa. I ended up being on the board of the Sun City Taxpayer Association, if any of you guys remember that. The old Bulldog that we changed that, Marv Worthen was great at getting that redirected into a positive stream. And then we actually started Community Assistance Network through the Taxpayer Association, and then we discontinued the Taxpayer Association. I was on that board. I was on the board of, again, for those that have been around for a while, the Sun City Area Transit, or Transit Area, STSC, SCAT. So I'm familiar with being on boards. But one of the things I've said is, and I think you guys have all intimated it, if the focus of every board member is the mission of that organization, you're going to have a great board. You may have differences of opinions, but that only refines and makes your choices better and makes your decisions better because you hone it down, because it's the mission of the organization. And so I will, again, for full disclosure, say that I've read the mission. The only caveat that I will raise, which I think is inherent in the board, but it's not stated, is something that you kind of touched on, the fiscal conservative part of it. Being on the CAN board, we've dealt with the people that are under the poverty line, and they're usually widows. A lot of them are making less than $1,000 a month. Some are just a few hundred. And I remember we would get cards coming in, usually again from a widowed lady, and when they get a rebate from EPCOR, which we facilitated, they'd get $22, $23 in a 3-month period. And they would send in a little note saying how thankful they were, how much that meant to them. And it's like, you know, we need to be aware, even though we range from multimillionaires to those little old ladies with a few $100s a month, we need to be aware of what we're doing with our community and making sure, even though we do have to spend money, it's a corporation you have to maintain, to be as fiscally conservative as possible. And going back to Connie's, some of her things with the HVAC, in the legislature, that was one of the things we dealt with. It's like funding. How do we make sure we're funding appropriately? Because you've got schools, when they need roofs taken care of, they need that money before the roof goes, and then you have to change, like we did with Sundial, where you have to change all that understructure. It costs you so much more. So there's a way to be, you know, fiscally responsible and still spending money, but I think that's the balance. And again, I'm really kind of surprised, to be honest with you, because I had no intention of running for the rec center board. It was, to me, that was as bad as getting back into politics, which I'm so thankful I'm not in it anymore. But I'm actually excited because I think there's so much good that we can do. And you know, I love my community. I've been serving my community for years, and I look forward to, if I'm elected, serve on the board.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So I think I can probably dispense with some of my sort of general statements about board service because you guys have pretty much covered most of it. But I do want to just, Connie offered to pass these things out. So we do have a mission, vision, and value statement. And actually, this one, not yet. Okay. So I'm also a retired teacher. Here you go, Connie. This one here, and I know that you don't give people, Connie? This one as well, yeah. Yeah, so, you don't give people things that you don't want them to read. So, anyway, what you have there is a mission, vision, and value statements, which is a recently redone document, and it is now increasingly visible in our community. It used to be very, very difficult to even find our mission, vision, and value statement. And the other thing is something that Tom, as a member of the Elections Committee, actually brought forward from an organization called Board Source. Just some general ideas about what it takes to be a good board member. And I think you have covered a lot of that. I want to repeat that none of us is paid for what we do. There is an enormous sense of volunteerism that is a bedrock value for us and for our community. We know that we have members in this community with incredible stores of experience and wisdom, and we know that we can really benefit from being able to draw on all of that. But if there was one thing that I would want to highlight from those documents that you've just gotten, is just the idea that what the board does should be driven by the mission, vision, and value statement. So everything that we do should be aligned with that. And one of the critical things that we do as a board is to make sure that our decisions align with those statements that we've made. So we've been very pleased to see that in the corporate offices, for instance, you're finding this document of the mission, vision, value statements being posted in individual offices. It's becoming more of a thing and driving increasingly what we do here. I'll just mention a couple of items here. I think probably because I anticipate this being a question that will be asked, and that is, so how much time does this take? Will I still be able to golf? Will I still be able to vacation with my family? Will I be able to see my grandchildren and so forth? And so I was just going to give you a little idea about what the scope of the job is. So you probably all know that we have 2 official meetings 10 months of the year, so from September through June. On the second Monday of the month is a member exchange, and on the last Thursday, with exceptions, of course, for the holiday months in November and December, our official business board meeting. You might look at those and think, okay, sometimes those meetings have lasted for 3 or 4 hours, but that's only a small part of the total. So when you have a meeting like this, there's an agenda that goes out, you have motions that you formulate. There's a question, do you want this motion to go forward this way, or would it be good to revise it? Are there, afterwards, there's the minutes that are put together, and Marcia Johnson, as the executive coordinator for the board, does those minutes for us, but she always sends them out to us and says, are these an accurate reflection of what happened? Does anything need to be changed? And this applies to all meetings. So when you chair one of the standing committees, for instance, you're responsible for making sure that there is an agenda. Marcia helps with that, but she will send it to you and say, is this the agenda that you want to have? You have to make sure that there is a recording secretary. The recording secretary submits a summary of the meeting. Marcia sends it to you and asks, is it okay to post it this way? So all of those things actually have some hidden components to it. A lot of people think, oh, you just have to sit up front for 2 to 4 hours, depending on how long the meeting is, but there's actually a lot more behind that as well. So in addition, once a month, there is a board information session. Traditionally, that happens on the Wednesday after the exchange, where we say, okay, we've had a chance to hear from our members. Marcia puts together a list of all the topics that were brought forward, and we as a board say, are there any of these that we need to act on? And I just want to say, when I first started looking at running for the board, it used to be that at the end of the board meeting, anybody could come up to the microphone and you had 3 minutes to talk about whatever you wanted to. And after one of the first meetings I went to, I asked one of the board members afterwards, so what happens now? Somebody brought forward X, Y, and Z. Are you going to go into executive session and talk about this? And the answer was, no, nothing happens. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It's not recorded, it's not put out, it's just people got up and were able to say their piece and nothing happened. And we don't want that to be the case, so we do have this, what we call a board information session that happens once a month. Other things that can come up, if there are disciplinary issues where somebody who has had some kind of a disciplinary measure passed out that they appeal, it goes to the board. So you might be part of a hearing where you listen to evidence that's presented and essentially make a decision about whether that disciplinary measure should be upheld or not. Those, of course, are highly confidential. If it gets past the stage of a hearing where the decision of a hearing is appealed, it can be a whole board situation where the entire board is there. You're reviewing video recordings and so forth to make a decision about that. That's not one of the more pleasant parts of this job.
These are hearings involving members.
Right, hearings involving members who are suspected of having violated our member code of conduct, generally speaking. We get a lot of emails, and I was just writing to my kids the other day, and I said, yeah, I spend a lot of time. I've probably answered thousands of emails, and that's not an exaggeration. So when members write to us, we don't have a great system set up, because sometimes we don't know when somebody sometimes they send an individual mail to each member of the board, and sometimes they send it to the whole board, and we can't tell based on getting an email from a single person to you, you are the vice president, so dear Vice President McAdam, please do such and such, figuring out how to respond to that. So oftentimes it's, I'll formulate a response, I'll send it out to my colleagues so they can at least see, in case that person also wrote them the same email, for instance. So that does take a fair amount of time. I would say when I first got on the board, I think there was sort of an expectation that every couple of days you would look at your board emails, and now it's more like every couple of hours. We're sort of assuming that the board members are checking their emails. I'm not suggesting that this is a positive reflection on what we do as a board. So when we look at, in general, there are some areas that'd be interesting to ask my colleagues where you think we could improve ourselves, but that may be left up to the new board to do that. It's not really a positive thing for a board member to have to be spending basically a full-time job or something close to a full-time job doing this. That should not be the case in my own philosophy of board governance, but sometimes it does turn out to be that way. There's a lot of educational stuff that goes on. So for instance, with the library fiasco, caught us by surprise as well. And I went from only knowing how my local libraries operate. I have frequently ordered books from the Maricopa library system. I use the library a fair amount, but I didn't know anything about the Maricopa County Heat Relief Network. Well, I do now. I know that there are 4 different categories of heat relief that Maricopa County does, and that a library is often considered to be at one of those 4 levels, and ours have been designated that way. We've also found out that we don't have to be designated that way. So what are the models that Maricopa County uses? There are some libraries that are completely funded by the communities that they're in. The facility is made available. The operational cost of the library, for instance, that's the case, or was the case in Surprise. Surprise has now withdrawn from the Maricopa County Library Network, but they covered 100% of the costs. There are 3 libraries that all of the costs are covered by the county, and then there's the hybrid model that we're in, where we make the facility available, the county covers the cost of operation. So, I mean, I'm just telling you that this is all stuff that doesn't just fall out of the sky. You actually have to learn things like this. And so there's a big learning curve with respect to that. Learning how parliamentary procedures work. We're very, very grateful to have our own resident expert on that. Tom over there, I've written to Tom on many occasions saying, Tom, what are the rules that govern X, Y, or Z? And he's able to help us out with that. So that's just another aspect of the time that's involved. We've learned stuff about whether it's a good idea to do underground irrigation on golf course tees, for instance. We've learned a little bit about pool decking. There appears to be no material known to mankind that is able to withstand the Arizona sun.
And chemicals.
And chemicals. So if anybody's looking for somebody to do a master's thesis or a doctoral dissertation in material science, you would get a lot of business if you found a solution to that. We sometimes write articles for publication. So sometimes we're asked to produce something for the Sun City Update, sometimes for the Independent, for a variety of different sources. So I'm just mentioning those things as all little features that belong to serving on the board. We also occasionally get invited by a fellow board member to the Kentucky Derby party. Or there's one coming up soon. So there are some social events that are involved in that, and that can be a lot of fun. But I did not realize how much I was biting off when I decided to serve in this capacity. There also are officers on the board. The officers of the board are voted in by the new board each year on the first day, the first working day after January 1st. So this will be on January 2nd of 2025, another required presence day, where the new board will actually, in executive session, vote for its own officers. So there's a president, that's Kat, I'm the vice president, Anita is the treasurer, and Connie is, you're actually officially our secretary. For a while you were in serving in that capacity as an intermediate basis. And each of those come with additional responsibilities as well. So as far as being qualified to serve, I think all of you probably know that. There's lots of information in this candidate packet that is available downstairs. So anybody who, if you decide I want to move forward with this, you need to go and pick up a candidate packet. In order to get one of these, you have to be verified as a legitimate member owner of the corporation. So we don't just hand these out. That's why we don't bring a stack of them up here and hand them out, because each time we have to check to make sure that a person is, that you've actually paid your assessments and so forth, and that you're a legitimate member in good standing. And this packet has a lot of information in it. It's divided up into two sides here, one with just a lot of general information and one with stuff that you have to do. And it's very well put together. So that's, if anybody wants to look through this afterwards, you're welcome to have a look. Unfortunately, the offices will be closed downstairs by the time we finish, so you won't be able to just go downstairs after this meeting to pick one up, but you can come in anytime during regular hours and go to the corporate office downstairs to pick one of these up. Okay, so I thought it might be kind of fun. A lot of times people say, so what are the big items that the board is facing right now? And I thought it might be kind of fun to just do like a popcorn thing here with people just in one or two words saying, what are the big items that we're facing right now? So one that has been mentioned, obviously, would be the Mountain View renovation. So
Thunderbird property.
Just overall budgets and capital expenditures.
Golf course repairs and maintenance.
Our next step with technology and where we're going to go and how we bring RCSC where it needs to be for future generations.
I guess I would say something that people aren't thinking about is air quality in our clubs. It's a lot bigger issue than we might think it is.
I would say communication and outreach, and I would like to speak to what you said about why we don't go to the newspaper and ask to review the newspaper, because we have no editorial. Newspapers are independent, including the Independent, and we have no say in what the Independent prints, and they don't check either. The same thing applies to social media. There are no guardrails in social media. People are free to go online to the site of their choice and basically say anything they choose to say, which is one of the reasons why we don't comment to what letters to the editor and social media sites. To try to do that would in and of itself be a full-time job. We have recently reinstituted the Outreach and Communications Committee. The last one that we had morphed into the In Focus Committee. So we're bringing back the Outreach and Communications Committee to better reach our members who constantly talk to us about providing transparency. And sometimes we just have to say, we've been as transparent as we possibly can. There's no more for us to tell you. We are keeping you up to date with all the information that we have available to us using all the communication methods that we have available to us. And I encourage all of you to become involved in the Outreach and Communications Committee.
One of the things I would point to is you can't tell them everything. If we're doing contract details. You can't tell everybody what's going on with that. You end up paying more money for what it is. So there's lots of things that are non-disclosable unless you're in a particular committee or board or whichever, and you have to be conscientious of that. We got lots of questions after the previous general manager, and we agreed to part ways, but that wasn't something we could talk about.
Another thing we're looking at is expanding our foundation to allow us to start searching for some grant money to help pay for some of the things we have to do, fundraising, donations. We do some work now helping our members that are below the poverty level to help pay their yearly assessment. And we're doing a great job at that. There's many more people we could help, but we just don't know who they are. But we're pushing foundation now in a little bit different direction and expanding it as well.
So ADWR is a term that any board member will become familiar with, the Arizona Department of Water Resources. So we do run 8 golf courses, and there we are in the 4th water management plan, and the 5th one is about to come down on us. And so that's a really a big issue for us. A year ago, we would have said the lake. You know, the lake has been completely redone with a new liner, new fountains, and so forth. There's also something that most people in the general public don't know, and that is that our general manager is in the process of a massive documentation of what happens here in the organization. So they're just making sure that there is documentation so that when there is turnover, we actually have a written records of what needs to happen, how things are done, and I would say also, Jim, sort of a general a review of our bylaws, and right now we're sort of in a piecemeal approach, trying to fix a few little things at a time there. You know, one of the things that Tom brought to our attention is that when we changed the bylaws to allow for virtual participation in board meetings, we didn't actually include committee meetings in that, but we have been conducting committee meetings. I was in one today where we had virtual representation. Well, you actually sort of need to change your documents to make that a legitimate thing to do. So not necessarily one of the big items, but another one of those little items that's out there. Okay, anything else from?
The only other thing I would say is that if you're familiar with Title 33 and Title 10, this corporation operates under Title 10. That's a special title for us and for communities such as ours. And so it is far less restrictive than Title 33. Some members think we're a municipality. Some members think I'm the mayor. That's not true. This is a corporation, and we operate for the benefit of our members.
I also think top of mind for most of us is that we're always trying to balance fiscal conservatism with doing what's right for the future. And it's a fine line sometimes of knowing which side to fall on. And I don't think there's been any conversation we've had since I've been on the board where those are the two things top of mind as we've been talking about it. Is it the right thing to do based on where we want to go, but based on what our fiduciary responsibility is? And I think that's really important. I think everybody on the board is very focused on that.
One other thing that's in work, which you've probably not heard about, is that in the not-too-distant future, we will have a Sun City radio. You've been in all the centers, and we play in music. That's a radio station. In the future, that will be controlled by us. We'll be able to put in details about what's going on in the center. It'll be a new way of communicating and keeping people up to date to what's going on, and it'll be repeated and repeated, so it won't be me telling Rick, and Rick tells Tom, and it gets all confused. Like, they can go back in if you're working out, and you're going to hear it, and you're going to hear it again, and you're going to hear it again. And hopefully, we will do better with keeping people informed on what's going on.
Mike?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How does that compare with there's an effort to put a Sun City radio that's already out there on the internet. They're calling themselves Sun City Radio.
They are Sun City Radio. We will be the Rec Center Radio.
Okay. Because that's an independent thing that's outside of the RCSC, and that's why I just wanted to make sure you're talking about something we're going to do, that the RCSC is going to do, and will only be really playing in this, or will you be playing it where I could play it at home?
It'll be run through the internet, so you'll be able to listen to it anywhere in the world that has internet.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's just, there's one final thing is from us to you, is that Connie's going to pass out a list of dates. I think this is also included in the packet, but in case you have questions right now that you want to ask about that, these are just things that any candidate will want to know between now and Election Day. But when you get yours, please do pencil in 2 more dates, and that is, when you get it, December 19th is the swearing in of new board members. It's essential that you be available for that, and then on January 2nd of 2025, an executive session for board officers.
I think there is a schedule that does have.
That includes those, okay, yeah, right, thank you. So as you look at that, this is your chance now to just pepper us with questions, anything that you would like to know that we might be able to help you with. And when you do, if there's a particular board member you would like to address your question to, please direct it to that person. Otherwise, I might just randomly pick on some people and ask them to do that. So the floor is yours.
Don't all talk at once.
Well, one of the first things that you'll have to do to be a candidate is gather 100 signatures from members of the community to support your candidacy. I highly recommend you get more than 100 signatures, because not every signature you get will be easily validated. And some people will tell you that they are a member, you'll have them sign, and then you'll notice that they are using a number that starts with 9. Those would actually be privilege card holders, and so you will need an additional signature. We allow anyone that we ask to sign, but you just need to know that you'll need some extra signatures. And sometimes things are not terribly legible for the verifiers, and you'll want a few extra signatures for that as well.
Do note that's a very hard deadline. Noon on October 18th is when your completed packets have to be turned in, and strongly recommend you're getting them in sooner, because what will happen is that within a day or two of your submitting your 100 signatures, you will get confirmation that they have all been validated, and if not, you will still have a little bit of time to get the missing signatures that you would need. So, and I just want to say about these signatures, this is not somebody that's promising to vote for you. This is simply somebody that says, I support the idea that your name should be on the ballot. So when you talk to people, it's not like they have to decide between signing yours and signing yours, which of these 2 people do I prefer to have. That's not the issue at all. You can sign as many of them as you want for anybody that you would like to see their name appear on the ballot.
Yes.
Are you folks allowed to sign if I were to ask?
Yes.
Yes.
Any member can sign.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
curious. Okay.
I can tell you, we would all be validated.
I would be surprised if I wasn't.
Unless you didn't pay your.
It's legible. As I said before, I love what I'm doing. I'm just thrilled. The hardest thing I've had to deal with is social media and rumor. You have to have a pretty tough skin sometimes.
Well, that's kind of what
Yeah.
my point was when I was coming across. I may not have said it correctly, but the rumors are out there. And
And there's
When I go to
nothing
the
you're,
meetings, it's not the same thing as what the rumor is.
and once that
there's no
rumor's out there,
Right, and
you're
there's no
never going to change it.
response. Right, and there's no response from you, so it's like,
We
you know,
can't.
it just, it feeds their fuel.
Well, we
It
can't
fuels their
respond
feed.
to every rumor that's
Yeah.
out there. We can't.
Well, we,
No, I meant some of the big ones, you know.
well, so this is not a trivial matter. We do actually sort of think about this. So one of the current things that's going on right now is that there have been some members that have been putting numbers out there about what the Thunderbird property would cost us. They are wildly off base. Now, do we go out and say, oh, member so-and-so said this is not right? And, you know, with the independent, Scott Tynes is the guy who writes most of the articles, and he's doing a pretty good job. But we have no control over what members put in the letters to the editor, and I'd be willing to bet that about 80% of the people that pick up the Independent turn to page 10 or 12 before they turn anywhere else because they want to see what the letters to the editor were. That's the real interest of that newspaper. And you can have the wildest information in this. So there's somebody that's been saying this is going to cost over $30 million. Don't do it. Spend your money instead taking care of the stuff we have. Don't be going out and acting like we've got unending amount piles of cash. The fact of the matter is that this is being very, very, very carefully looked at. We got an assessor's report and confirmed what we expected the numbers to be, but we're not at a position because we're in the middle of a negotiation with the owner right now. We don't talk publicly about these numbers, right? And we don't want to undermine our negotiation position on this. So we sometimes ask ourselves when the wild rumor has gone out, is it worth responding to or isn't it? And sometimes it's better not to stir the pot further and just to hope that at some point that bad information will be countered by good information. So it's a tough thing, especially on social media.
And the one thing the board does do, we're not a group of idiots sitting up here. We're looking at a property and we are doing our due diligence. We've had contractors in there, we've had an appraiser in there, we've had all kinds of people walking around looking in that building. We're going to know that building from top to bottom before we decide to buy or not buy. We're just not throwing money in the air and saying, oh, great, it's cheap, we're going to buy it. Wrong. We've been in there. We've seen it all. We got some hospital beds we can sell and a few wheelchairs, but we've seen what that building needs. We know what's going on.
I appreciate that because that's what I have seen by attending these meetings and hearing what you can publicly announce. Of course, I've been kicked out of a couple, but, you know, whatever. I'd have kicked me out too, so. But I'm actually seeing what is happening, you know, and that's what I do like. Is I think you folks are on the right track, and then I think your ship just need to keep on the same path. And I think the rumors will go away when they see the end product. No, and you're right, they'll never go away.
No.
This is too much fun to start them. But I do see what's going on.
There's some very creative people here, with very creative minds.
Oh, yeah. And a mind's a terrible thing.
Yeah, and they should have a job for those people somewhere.
Well, I think the opportunity is going to come when the board will be able to make all of that public. And all of what Anita and Karen have mentioned here, all of that will come to light at some point. And it'll be hard numbers, and it'll be hard facts, and the decisions will be, I believe, well supported, whether you go for it or you say we're walking away, and we'll be able to tell you this is why. And so despite all of the stuff that flies around rumor mills, which is almost comical at this point, but I get a pretty good kick out of some of it. But at the appropriate time, you're going to see all the facts, and I think you'll be pleased at the amount of due diligence that's been going on. It won't be any kind of a knee-jerk kind of reaction. It's been well thought out.
I would also like to say that when it comes to rumors, you have to be really careful what you respond to. because if you start responding really strongly to some of the more outlandish rumors, you lend credence to it, and it starts gaining legs and runs away from you. So I think that people are allowed their opinion, and much of the rumor is opinion, and people get pretty much what Darla was talking about earlier about telephone. They take A and N and G and put them together, and A and N and G don't even relate. And then you get dodgeball, someplace where you would never expect to have dodgeball in a senior community. And I'm not joking, that's something that kind of made the rumors. We were going to have dodgeball somewhere. I mean, and so that's, you have to, do you respond to that, or do you just shake your head and say, okay, that's humorous, and we'll focus on the really important things. Like we responded as quickly as we could to the library situation to try and dispel the rumors as fast as we could. So I think when there is a situation where we need to, we do respond to the rumors, but you can't respond to all of them, and you have to be, I think, cautious in what you do respond to, so that it doesn't become more entrenched almost, because then it's, well, I say this and you say that, and it's very difficult. I think most people read things, and if it sounds outlandish, they kind of cock their head and go, I don't know. Others will read it and believe it. It depends where you're coming from in life and how you approach things. So.
The library thing was more than just rumor. There was issues there, and I think you guys addressed it very well. And you know, my experience with social media and people on all sides of the issue, it's going to always be there. It's going to be a fact of life. If you're going to be swayed by that, you're going to be swayed. You're going to have problems. You have to be able to take some of what's said with a block of salt sometimes, and just keep moving forward to do what's right because it's right. And, you know, that's just the way our culture is anymore. People, it's that ready, fire, aim type of thing. And, you know, it's just, again, when you're in leadership, you're going to face that.
And I do think what you said is true. When it's an issue, we respond. Mm-hmm. When it's a rumor, there's not much we can do, because I'm not going to go say that member 00001 said X and they're not telling the truth, because I would never do that to anybody. I wouldn't do it in my job. I wouldn't do it. It would be a private conversation if I had something like that. You certainly wouldn't want to put that out in the public. Even if member 0001 was as wrong as they could be, you still would choose to handle it in a different way than, you know, getting on social media and responding. So.
And then you have to be careful that sometimes people just want to engage you in a debate in a public place in the hopes of finding out anything, or trying to create more rumors or more issues.
Everybody likes to be that expert in that 15 minutes of fame.
One thing I do want to comment on is we've had some highs and lows as far as where some of us have been personally attacked, or our decisions have been attacked or whatever. And what's really nice is this group of people are very supportive. So like when somebody's down, everybody else does what they can to lift that person up or be supportive or say, you know, this is being resolved this way. And I mean, especially like after the stuff that blew up about the library, that was real high and low. And we all just said, nope, we're going to work through this, we're going to resolve this. And that was really rewarding, I guess I would say, as far as being able to know that this is the right group of people making the best possible decisions to, you know, on behalf of RCSC, our community, and our members.
And it's not all bad. We have a lot of fun, too.
We do. We also have a lot of snacks.
We have a cookie dish and a candy dish.
So that perhaps it deserves a little bit more than just a cookie dish and candy dish. There is a room downstairs that is considered to be the board office, and every member of the board, there are 9 desks in there. And you also do, it used to be that we just got an iPad, but you actually get a computer that's issued to you. And there is obviously an expectation that you are technology literate. You don't have to be a pro, but if you can't do emails, this is not the job for you.
Just one question, because in the legislature we had computers issued to us, laptops too, but I use my own. Is it possible to just use your own, or do you have to use the?
We have been urged not to use our own devices too much, because if there was ever some kind of a FOIA type request, and I realize we're not the government, but if you had been using your personal device, then it could be that your entire personal device would have to be presented. I don't know if there's any legal legitimacy to that, but there are several of us. I'm not one of them. I have a clear distinction between what I want on my personal and what I want on my board stuff. I do not have my email, for instance, don't go to my phone. For other people, they do. I just want to keep that separate. So you do have some space to operate there within yourself. Are you a Mac user?
No, I'm a PC user, but yeah, at the legislature, I used a Surface, so it's like portable, easy.
Yeah.
I was also on Ledge Council, so I was down there getting rid of all the paper and moving to laptops when all you had was desktops and everything was paper, which drove me crazy.
We would recommend that you use your board computer and not your personal computer.
Okay.
Got the right
We should not have our board information
And
in your personal device.
Marcia will also provide you with a binder that has all the information for every board meeting that you need. There are different tabs. There's the management report, there's the finance report, there's the works in project, and she'll take all that stuff out each month and put it in new. I happen to like to be able to do that myself, and so she just hands me the paper, and I figure out how I want to put that in my own binder. But I will tell you, I have 2 rows of binders at home that are this wide. It's a lot of paper. Yeah, and so you can ask Marcia at any time and say, hey, I'm chairing this committee, and I thought that this kind of a binder would be big enough for finance and the finance budget and audit committee. When I took that job, they met 3 times a year. And now I'm finding I need multiple ones like this to keep the same level of records there. So those things are all available, and you can all you have to do is tell Marcia, I need one, and it needs to have this number of dividers in it, and I want this to be on the front cover of it, and et cetera. So those are services that Marcia provides.
If I may, you said there's 12 committees that you chair.
Yeah.
Do you get to choose which committee would like to say, I'd like to do this? Or would you assign it as when you get there?
On election day, when the officers are elected, a president will be elected, and the president will in all likelihood ask you what committee or liaison you would like to be on.
Right.
The chances are pretty good, but sometimes the president might try to match your skill set to the committee. And I would also probably say, just because you requested Committee X and you get on Committee X, over the course of time, as these folks will attest to, you may have started on Committee X and you may find yourself on Committee Y or a different liaison for whatever reason.
So on election day, you get a piece of paper like this for everybody who was elected. Okay, so there's one in the packet, and it says, indicate preferences for appointments to committees, liaison, and commissions, and if you prefer to be a chair or a co-chair. So you fill all this out, and then the president of the board gets that and has a big puzzle, like how do I figure out how to, so we are required that there be 2 chair people that are board members for every one of these committees. And so he or she will figure out how that works. I will tell you that there is, that your seniority does play a role in all likelihood in how highly your wishes are adhered to. So, I mean, there's a sense that if somebody has never been to meetings before and is newly elected, do we want to put them as the chair of the Long Range Planning Committee? Probably not, you know, so. Pardon me?
Or elections.
Yeah, there's any number of committees where you would say, we really need to have somebody here who's been around and been through this for a little while before we put them in charge of one of the committees.
So then like this, the smaller committees like lawn bowling or whatever, they're like, oh, new co-chairs again this year. What a surprise. I mean, so, I mean, those were actually committees that I actually wanted to be on. I'm an avid bowler. I wanted to learn how to lawn bowl. And so those are committees I'm like, and then I actually gave them a priority, like this would be like for 1, 2, or whatever, so that way, when our president was organizing it, they go, oh, okay, well, that's an easy decision. Oh, I'm not too sure about that one. And, you know, just make it a little bit easier for the person to understand what I felt my skill set would match with, or where I thought I could best serve.
So historically, these committees have met once per month. But as of late, there are a number of these committees that have moved to much more frequent meetings. So Budget and Finance for quite a while, from last year until a little bit into this year, was meeting twice a month. So we went from, remember, 3 per year to having twice a month meetings. And then there was an ad hoc committee. So an ad hoc simply means that this is not a standing committee. This is a committee that is established to achieve a particular purpose. That was the Strategic Alternatives Committee, to look at the Lakeview thing. They met weekly from May through September.
Mountain View.
Sorry, Mountain View, yeah. What did I say?
You said Lakeview.
Oh, Lakeview, yeah, Mountain View. So, so there are exceptions to that, but you can assume that you'll probably have at minimum 3 or 4 assignments between the liaisons and the committees that you will have at least monthly meetings with.
I would like to say that when I was on the board, I think my first year I was on the chair of the co-chair of the lawn bowling. I didn't know anything about lawn bowling, but if you think about the committees are made up of our community residents, and they are there to come together to try to help improve their whatever they're there to represent, or try to enhance it somehow. And you're just there pretty much just to guide the meeting. You're not there to really help. You're not really there to tell them what to do. You're just there to let them discuss things and try to come up with ideas to enhance their subject, or to keep it running in a smooth manner. So you're there pretty much just to guide the meeting. I learned a lot about lawn bowling. But as a matter of fact, it ended up being one of my favorite committees, because I requested it every year after that, because that's a really, really neat group of people, and I really learned a lot. And it's interesting to listen to them talk. Because remember, the committees are made up of community members, and that's their committee. You're just there to help guide them through the meeting.
So I have a slightly different perspective on that, Darla. It is true that these are committee people, but these are board committees. So these are things that the board is responsible for, and the board has said, rather than us as a group getting down into the weeds, why don't we get people who know the weeds already to help us? So it is a committee that is under board authority, with the idea being that it's supposed to be feeding the board the things that the board needs to know in order to make good decisions. So it's just a slightly different tack on that. It is true that the people that you have there on lawn bowling know a whole lot more about lawn bowling than you do. There's no question about that. But at the same time, the board has called this committee into existence for a particular purpose, to be able to feed the board the correct kind of information that the board is asking for.
And the committees make recommendations to the board for certain activities to occur and be voted on by the board as a whole. We had a number of those at our last board meeting.
That's an example of a debate that you could have. So other questions? Okay, so maybe I'll just run through this. You got this little list right here. There are some of these things. So I do want to just close by urging anybody who wants to be better informed to try to attend as many meetings. And we're coming up on the 2-month board hiatus, but try to attend as many meetings as you can, both of the board meetings, the exchange, the board meeting, and committees, so that you're getting a little bit of an idea of what's going on in the community. The next hard date for you, of course, is this October 18th, where your candidate packets have to be returned and the signatures all validated by noon. And then there is this candidate orientation on October 29th, and I think this is in the packet. It says that it's required. This is not an optional thing. It's actually required. This is a chance where the people who have been named the official candidates for this year's election cycle all have to be there, and there's a little bit more detail about sort of what the rules are from there on going forward in the candidate period. So the candidate video, so we actually will film. This is not a requirement. It's highly recommended to do this on November 1st. It's a 2 to 3 minute statement that you can make that will be running on endless loop at all of our rec centers and so forth, but also on YouTube. So these are things that show up in people that want to know more about, who I vote to. Often do go to these YouTube videos. So that's something to look forward to. So just historically, it used to be that people would make their own little brochures, and they might have pencils with their names on them, and they would put them all out at the rec centers, and there would be tables with all kinds of information, and I don't know, Snicker bars or whatever it is. And when COVID hit, we took all of that away and thought, well, let's try to do this with the videos, and it turned out that we liked the change that COVID brought. So instead of doing that other thing, we don't have tables at the rec centers and golf courses any longer where people put their stuff out. You are welcome to, at the board meetings that take place in the fall, when you walk into the sundial, there are tables there that have all the motions that are up there where you can sign in if you want to speak to one of the motions. But that is a place where people are able to put their candidate information stuff. Yeah. And then these 2 candidate forums are one in the middle of the afternoon, one in the evening to accommodate working people. This is also not an absolute requirement, but highly, highly recommended. These are also videotaped and put up on YouTube, and this is just a chance for all of the candidates at that point to be asked questions by members of the community. And then you see that absentee ballots are available starting November 22nd. Online voting starts on December 25th, and Election Day is that Tuesday, December 10th.
It's November, you said December.
November 25th, sorry, yeah. So there's like 2.5 weeks of online voting. And by the way, if you know people who want to be able to vote online who do not yet have an account with RCSC, help them get that set up. So we will have pieces of paper saying this is how you do it, but sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. There has been historically where, like, you submit all your information and it might take 72 hours for them to get back to you so that your account is activated. I'm not sure if that's still the case or not, but you can't just wait until the day before the election to try to do that. So that would be something that we would love to have more and more people using the online options that exist. Which of course gives them access to the online voting platform as well.
And you can also go on YouTube and look at prior candidate forums or videos to see what candidates have done in the past.
All right, well, thank you very much for your interest, and if there's anything that we can do to help you out along this process, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our recreation center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.